Likes help get your videos to the top. Got really big into music and actually is doing well at it. The right type of message. If I put out the right type of message, the right type of vibes, the right type of music, the right type of energy, 3 to 5 years, it's going to attract that return. Be a work in progress, always a work in progress.
What's Gucci my Phenom family? Hope you're feeling absolutely freaking phenomenal. My name of course is Eddie, and guys, today on my right here, we have an extremely interesting PC build. Now, this PC build is specifically for a subscriber we have here on the channel, and I'm proud to say that it is completely done with some caveats. Now, what I mean by caveats is that the PC is fully functioning and fully working, but the build that we were originally going for, unfortunately, we weren't able to get it because of limited parts due to manufacturing going on with the world right now. And honestly, before I even start on what's inside this build, it's honestly hard for me to recommend this particular build because of pricing as of right now. So once again, given the current situation on what's going on in the world right now, manufacturing and shipping has been absolutely insane. Getting parts, sourcing parts, ordering parts, pretty much anything like that has been very, very, very difficult. And I know a lot of you guys can relate. So now going back to my previous build, which is my personal rig, which is right over there, getting parts even for that was not the easiest thing to do. And as of right now, it's really, really, really hard to recommend even something as this one compared to that one. So recently, one of the subscribers in my comment section actually did in fact bring it to my attention that the current build that I have right behind me, instead of it being worth $3,000, is worth currently over $4,000 at the time of recording this. And that's pretty much, unfortunately, the same story for the PC right here on my right. Now, let me give you just a little bit of backstory. With the computer on my right side, it has met, unfortunately, the same fate as my current build computer, is that the prices are really inflated right now, and with even just the most littlest things, and usually what something's supposed to be so cheap, it's just a couple $100s more, and it's honestly really getting out of hand with the limitations of availability as well as pricing. It's really hard to recommend to even build something like this. So the subscriber actually sent me $350 of their own personal money, and within that budget was supposed to be for a mouse and a keyboard, so very limited on what we were able to achieve. Now, the original parts that I wanted to go for, they either got sold right as I was looking at them. I was trying to get a lot of stuff used, and even then it was very hard to do this build. Now, just a quick heads up, the build on my right does not actually cost $350. In fact, I put up $250 of my own personal money in order to make sure that the subscriber was able to get as much as they could out of this machine, especially with current parts and pricing that's going on right now. Now, the real beauty about this particular build is the fact that we were able to cut a few corners in order to save money. Like, for instance, I had an extra battery laying around, as well as a couple fans from my previous build for my AIOs, as well as a couple extra parts for visuals like the white extension cables, as well as an additional Funko Pop that I just kind of had laying around as a final touch in order to make this a little bit more personalized for the specific subscriber. Now, for this particular build, I did in fact go AMD, mostly because of the expandability for the future terms and if we want to swap out any particular parts. Now, the original motherboard that I was supposed to get actually sold in the process of me buying it, so unfortunately we had to go with a different board, but it's still a pretty good board. We'll get into that in just a second. But mostly we had a bundle with the CPU and the GPU as a combo on Amazon's promotion, so we saved a couple $100 there just from that combo alone. Now, kicking it off, we went with the Ryzen 2600. This has 6 cores. It's a pretty solid CPU for what you get. The value is absolutely amazing. Now, one of the biggest benefits is that it's going to give the subscriber exactly what they need. At the same time, if they want to just take a break from all that editing, they'll be able to kick back and enjoy some pretty decent gaming as well. So like I said, this CPU did in fact come bundled with our GPU, and we ended up getting the Radeon RX 570RS. Now, if you want to get the numbers on this particular GPU, I don't unfortunately have those numbers with me because I didn't have that much time with this particular build. After building it, I had to send it out right to the subscriber because school has already pretty much started, and that's why this video is a little later than I would like it to be. But again, getting parts, everything kind of came late due to some hurricane issues. So once again, I apologize in advance, but I will be linking some reference videos in the description just for you guys if you want to get a better idea about this graphics card. We went with 16 gigabytes of ULUI RAM, but it is in fact clocked at 3200 megahertz. Now for the motherboard, I was trying to get a full-size ATX board for this particular build, but we ended up going with a micro ATX board. The original board that I had picked out for this was a full-size ATX, but given availability, we ended up going with this option. It was a much more cheaper and respectable option for this particular build. So the board we went with was the Gigabyte B450M, but don't sleep on this board. It has just enough things that we need for this particular subscriber, and it's going to give them all the expandability for what we need for right now. So fortunately for our boot drive, I had an extra 240 gigabyte SSD just kind of laying around, and that's going to be our main thing to load up our Windows operating system. And for our actual storage, we ended up going with 1 terabyte of Barracuda. Now, given some of the fan header limitations on this particular motherboard, I ended up getting a 4-way fan splitter in order to power all the additional fans that I had put inside this particular build. Now, specifically for the case, I went with the NZXT H510. The airflow is pretty okay for the most part for this particular build. It's not going to be anything that's going to keep everything super ice cold, given some of the front limitations when it comes to airflow restrictions, but it was in fact on Amazon warehouse deals. So if you're going for style points, this case actually takes the cake on that one. In my opinion, for that price, you're not really going to find an entire amount of cases, especially under NZXT's brand, that's going to look this good with the tempered glass and just generally the entire design itself. Now, for the most part, this case did come with everything, excluding a couple of fan screws as well as the original packaging, but for the most part, we were able to put everything still in this build. Now, as far as fans, the case did come with 2 120mm fans, one in the back for exhaust and one at the top for exhaust. But funny enough, I did have 3 140mm fans laying around from my previous AIOs from my last 2 builds. So those actually match the fans perfectly in this case. And last but very much not least, for our Funko Pop of choice, we ended up going with Aqua from Kingdom Hearts. Now, the subscriber wanted a royal blue and white setup, and unfortunately, again, given certain parts, I wasn't able to get this case in time in order to spray paint it and have it prepped in order to swap out some of the panels for royal blue panels. But as of right now, this is just an added bonus of a Funko Pop that I actually had gotten for the subscribers specifically for this build. And this will give them a little bit of that blue that they wanted originally. But again, hopefully we will be coming back to this PC in the near future and going over all the new customization options that we will be putting on this particular build. So as you can see, design-wise for this build, we didn't have any crazy colors going on with RGB lights. It was pretty mute for the most part, but I just want to say that this is a temporary thing. I will be coming back to this build sometime, hopefully in the near future. I've talked to the subscriber about this. There's more that we wanted to do with this particular build because it's the first time I've ever had a subscriber build on the channel, and I hope to have more in the near future. But once again, given the time restrictions of school as well as availability on parts, we were able to make do with what we had. Now, this video was supposed to be a full in-depth PC walkthrough build guide, but given time availability as well as part availability, I don't even have all the necessary needed parts in the build as it is right now. Once the rest of the parts come in, this particular build will be shipped off to the subscriber right away. So that's why I won't be able to do the full original video that I had planned, as well as showing off the benchmarks of what this PC is actually capable of doing. Now, unfortunately, missing currently in this build you see right now is some of our fan screws. I had to use zip ties as a temporary solution just to make sure that everything worked, as well as being able to show it off in its glory right now. Now, fortunately, while having extra parts laying around for this particular build, the power supply did not have a power cord, and I actually ordered that and sent that directly over to the subscriber as is. So once they get the PC, it will be a plug and play process, but I did go over setting up Windows with the subscriber, and everything is in fact set up for them to get right into what they need to do. Now for some extra parts I actually had laying around from my previous build was the cable extenders. Because I went with a white case on this particular build, we were able to have some of the white extension cables in order to kind of give it a little bit more pop versus the ugly ketchup and mustard cables we have hiding in the 24-pin connector. So unfortunately that is in fact used for my current build, and I didn't have an extra one in order to put in this particular build, but nonetheless it doesn't necessarily fully distract from the entire aesthetic of the build itself. So unfortunately guys, this is in fact the end of the video, but do me a huge favor and go down below into the comment section. Let me know what you would like to see in this particular build when I get it back in the near future in order to upgrade it for my subscriber. And hopefully we can do more things like this where I build subscribers custom PCs on the channel. Just let me know if that's something you guys want to do and or want to see. And guys, remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and don't forget to hit the little notification bell just so you get notified every time I put a video out like this, guys. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.
There's a sparkle in your eyes. I feel the warmth of your skin.